We now return to Abuja for the black uniform protest, as it has been tagged. Leaders of the PDP have led a protest to Inec head offices, as we can see Atiku Abubakar and some chieftains of the PDP are now seated and speaking to press. Amaka, can you update us? You look already in position to speak to the leadership.
We do have, sitting here, like you have said, we have the leadership of the People's Democratic Party. They are live here at the national headquarters of Inec. And of course, we have seen the protest march from the Legacy House in the Metema area of Abuja. So the question basically this afternoon, of course, let's start with the governor of Taraba State. Why are we here today?
We are here to protest against the last election, the presidential election. PDP is aggrieved that we were cheated. We won the election and we want to give our protest letter to Inec chairman.
Okay, Amaka, yes, we can see that there's a lot of chaos happening around that area, as our cameraman is just trying to navigate his way to be able to get a glimpse of you as you speak to the leadership. But we can hear you. Please, if you can continue, Amaka, let's hear from them while our cameraman navigates his way through this crowd.
Okay, so while the cameraman is trying to navigate, the governor of Taraba State is trying to explain to us why the leadership of the party are here alongside their presidential candidate.
We are aggrieved in the PDP that we were cheated out of the presidential race. Atiku Abubakar won this race, and we are here to submit a letter formally to Inec about our anger about the last election of the president. And, we've not been able to access them, so we are waiting, hoping that they will send somebody.
Right. So we can also see in shot there former Senator Dino Melaye, who is amongst the crowd. So much going on, so much chaos. So you can understand why our connection to Amaka is a little bit unstable. But you get the idea of it. We were able to hear the governor of Taraba State very clearly when he expressed that they are here to express their displeasure. They have a letter to deliver, and they're still waiting INEC officials to open up their offices so that this letter can be delivered. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get any clearer voices. There was another voice, I don't want to assume who was speaking. It sounded like him, yes.
It sounded like Atiku. And clearly he was frustrated. I heard him ask clearly, how can you have a meaningful conversation in the midst of this crowd? Because it looks right now, he was dressed casually in a black t-shirt, and I think that's, reminiscent of what the whole dissatisfaction that he has regarding the outcome of the election or the process. So that it's understandable, I believe, and we'll do our best to try to, hear what conversations Amaka is able to have here. But if she's not able to have any, it makes complete sense. And I think what I also heard the presidential candidate of the PDP say was this was, one of the worst elections, basically reiterating what we've heard him say, during the various press conferences he's had and also publications that have been made, statements released via his spokespeople like Frank Schwaibu. But frustration is clearly in the air.
Yeah, Cynthia, can't you just get a sense of the frustration just from watching, what the cameraman is going through currently and, what everybody there is going through. It's a hot day. And I believe Amaka is now in pole position to speak to the candidate of the PDP. Thank you so much, Amaka. Please, you may go ahead.
He was talking to us about how this election has been the worst one in the history of Nigeria's democratic dispensation. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to him as he talks to us about that.
Why?
You were trying to explain.
Yes, of course, because all the provisions of the current electoral law has been completely contravened. And we were protesting, and INEC was not listening. They were bent on going with this, announcing these results. And that's why we are protesting.
But you are already in court. You have instituted this litigation. Why did you dismantle?
I mean, they can go hand in hand. Don't we have right to protest as Nigerians under our constitution? We have the right to protest.
So
In fact, this protest is going to continue for a very, very long time.
Every day? Every day?
Either every day or every other day.
Your Excellency.
Yes.
Your Excellency. On Thursday, you briefed the press and you said you were going to go to the court.
Yes,
Can
of
you
course.
tell us exactly why you are now here at the Inec headquarters. You had to trek
Because-
more than 50 minutes.
Yes, because we are protesting and we have the right to protest under the Constitution. It doesn't stop us from going to court, the fact that we are protesting.
All right, so as we can see, he's been prompted to head to the gates of the INEC headquarters. It seems like an official of the Independent National Electoral Commission is about to receive them, so we'll just follow them with the protest and, of course, bring you up to speed as we get more updates here from the national headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Of course, it's all about the leadership of the opposition People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate. Assessing the outcome of that 25th election. Words of Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate. He says this is the worst election in the history of Nigeria since the return to democratic dispensation in 1999. So back to you.
Thanks, Amaka Ude Walker, and many thanks to our crew as well for navigating through the crowd. And Vimba, I think it was pretty clear. I don't think I've ever seen the presidential candidate of the PDP, dressed so casually and he was clearly, I think the only word I can find is frustration.
Yes.
Since it looks as though INEC didn't do a great job in terms of communicating with them, and now they're resorting to this to get them to engage in dialogue. That's what I could make out of what was said.
Absolutely. It seems, I got the same idea from it as they now finally gain access to the INEC offices. To quote the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, he said, "We will protest every day or every other day if we have to." Very strong words. He says there's no reason why they can't use their constitutional right to protest while they're in court. So clear that the PDP is throwing everything they have at this fight. Now I believe we've seen some officials coming out of the gates of INEC, and there's an exchange happening between the INEC official and PDP officials who are there, who are holding a letter. I'm not sure we'll be able to get any audio on it, but I believe it's the delivery of the letter as we anticipated.
Hopefully they can just engage in dialogue and the protests don't have to go on every day or every other day, because it's if the door for dialogue is open, then I think that it's doable.
So Atiku Abubakar has now made his way to the gates of INEC to meet with the INEC officials. Apologies for the shaky camera, but you can see what's happening there. Dino Malaya holding up a tweet there that was printed as a placard, a tweet that reinstated the commitments that INEC had made as to the transmission of results before the election. And now we see the exchange as this letter. Atiku Abubakar is there next to Senator Dino Malaya, and they are now handing over this letter to the INEC officials. Symbolic, as much as it seems when you watch it, it looks like a bit of an anticlimax, but the symbolism behind it is huge. As we know that INEC, from some of the papers we've seen, from the submissions that have been made to court, INEC looks like they're going to be a respondent in several of these cases.
Rightly so. When the chairman for INEC issued, he made a statement saying that they would learn from the glitches, what he calls glitches, of the just concluded presidential elections. It was use the words of the presidential candidate of PDP. He said it was medicine after death, because I don't think that was supposed to be. It looks as though he's not accepting that, because that's another excuse, and I don't think anyone wanted to hear excuses from INEC in the just concluded elections. And of course, we have Mr. Dayo Shobowale, who is our Arise News analyst, joining us in studio right now. Mr. Shobowale, Thank you for joining us on this very intense edition of Newsday, seen as going by what's going on in the Federal Capital Territory at the moment. What do you make of all this?
Well, presidential candidate of the PDP exercising maximally the rights of protest. It is a democratic right, and it is to show non-acceptance of the conduct of the elections by Inec, and aside from going to court, it's showing that it's very, very much aggrieved, and they will go to any length short of violence.
Yes,
which is apparent to show that it's not with Inec, and it's not accepting the results of the election. In any democracy, the majority may have a say, like I said. The majority may have its way. The minority must have its say. Now that he has come second, he's not the winner, so he's protesting. It is his right. It is a very credible and very democratic constitutional right, provided it is not turned into insurgency, it's not turned into any violent act. So it's on the right track.
It's been several decades, dare I say, since we've seen a figure this senior in politics, a former vice president and a presidential candidate, take to the streets to march in pursuit of democracy. What's the significance of this, do you feel, in the journey that we're going into, and especially with the electoral reform that was made in 2022, that was the hope for so many people for a new dawn of the development and advancement of the electoral process in Nigeria? We've just heard them singing the national anthem there as well. So it takes you back to an era that one would rather not think about, but here we are. Do you see any striking symbolism there?
A lot. And if you know the pedigree of Atiku Abubakar, you will know that for him to come out this way, it means he wants to make a point. When he rejected the result, he said he had been doing his best to deepen democracy, and that he's been in politics for a long time, especially during the time when the military was there, and he was even part of NADECO, which tried to eliminate the military and bring democratic rule to Nigeria. The essence of his message is that he's a veteran of the road, and he knows the rules, and he thinks the rules have been violated. So, like I said, it is his right, provided it's not violent. Provided it's not violent. He has every right to take to the streets, and protest, to urge people, to mobilize people, to protest against the results, and he has every right to go to the courts. But he's doing this in addition to the court, and he's not a novice in Nigerian politics. It's not as if he doesn't know what he's saying. So it's somebody to be listened to until the court decides otherwise.
And Mr. Shibwale, looking at this and how peaceful it looks, do you see this as a message to supporters of the PDP, for instance, not to resort to, you've been saying as long as it doesn't become violent, as long as it does not become violent, you've said that twice now.
Yes.
So I think this is a good example. It comes across as a good example that's being set by the presidential candidate of the PDP, that even though things didn't go his way, he's exploring the legal and peaceful options.
Yeah, but it's a novelty in Nigeria. To look at places like Israel, where they are protesting against judicial reforms. People have been doing it for almost 6 weeks now. In France, in Italy, people can spend a lifetime, you get me, even when their party loses, protesting. It is a legitimate right. It is part of the democratic process. And it's almost novel here. We hardly do it here. People resort to violence first, before going to the courts. But this is in order, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm glad you've referred to some of the instances around the world where there have been prolonged protests. And, one of the observations that many people will make about, like you said, in Nigeria, we don't often resort to protests, especially long, protracted protests. Unless you're ASU, for example, who didn't protest, but they went on strike. Now, given the novelty of this protest, to use your words, and of what seems like his intention to continue this for as long as is necessary to make his point proven, do you think that this is going to mount enough pressure for justice? Justice is a broad term, but for justice to be served. Go ahead.
I doubt that. Like I said, he has a right to have a say, but what is on the ground is beyond him. He is being watched, he's being listened to. And you see, don't forget that there was a youthful protest sometime. That's the End SARS campaign. And you can't separate that from the emergence of the Labour Party candidate and the emergence of youths taking an active part in our politics. But that one was cut down by the police because it was violent. So this is a different thing. Like I mentioned in Israel, people are protesting every time, but Netanyahu is going ahead with the judicial reforms he wants to do because he has the majority in parliament. So you can protest, it is a legitimate right, but that does not stop government from implementing the policies for which it has been elected. In this case, that does not stop the president-elect from going on with what he's supposed to do or what the political system is supposed to do in swearing him in by May 29th.
But is that even an objective, Mr. Shibowale? It doesn't seem like that's an objective. This looks like it's targeting specifically Inec, challenging the process, because it's a clear case of this is what I ordered and something else got delivered. Right now, I'm on IRF's site and I see that 163,207, votes have been uploaded out of 176,846. This was not what we were expecting. INEC definitely did not do its part, whether it were going by the account of the presidential candidates of various parties or going by the, international or local observers. And it looks as though the body needs to be called to order because they also did a very poor job when it comes to timely communication.
There is agreement across board that INEC has not performed. Get me? But you don't throw away the baby with the bathtub. You get me? There's a result on the ground, and that result has to be honored in a legitimate and procedural way, and that is what is going on. He is exercising his right as a Nigerian citizen and as a presidential candidate. Is in order to do that, but that does not stop the process. That was what they were asking INEC to do in the collation center, and which INEC did not do. Which INEC went on to announce the result. The results have been given. A presidential candidate has been given a certificate of victory. So it's not as if there is a vacuum. Atiku has every right to do what he's saying, but he has no right to stop the process. And the process is on. Sorry, but
the same process, and it's reminding me of when we watched Peter Obi's his press conference. He said he was challenging the process. The process, it seems to be the problem here, yes. Mr. Shibowale. So the fact that INEC, relegated everyone's opinion to the background and went ahead as though nothing was happening.
Everyone's opinion.
Okay, not my opinion. The opinion of the observers, the opinion of international bodies. It looks that's what they're challenging, the process.
Look, even we say the process is flawed. It's a matter of opinion.
Okay,
but
so
the process is on.
We will come to that in just 1 second. Well, let's get an update on what's happening with the protests. We're going to Abuja now, where our correspondent Amaka Ode Walker is standing by. Amaka, thank you so much. Please fill us in on what's going on right now.
Well, Cynthia, it's been an interesting day. That's what I would want to call it, because from the Legacy House in the Metama area of Abuja, we have seen the leadership of the People's Democratic Party match alongside its presidential candidates, just saying, you know what, that election on the 25th of February is flawed. And of course, we did get that exclusive interview with the presidential candidate where he's giving us his own opinion, where he says the February 25th election has got to be the worst election Nigeria has actually experienced since the return to democratic dispensation in 1999. And right now, I do have the spokesperson of the Atiku Okowa campaign organization speaking about Barrister Daniel Bwala, who has been vocal with his feelings with regards to the outcome of that election. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us here. Talk to us about the fact that, you know, we do know that your party has instituted litigation, but you still feel there's a need for you to carry out this protest march. Nigerians are wondering why this is important.
Because there are people who are having a misconception about the fact that because they haven't seen, because people are used to violence and all kinds of crime, they haven't seen that happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 days. They tend to assume that we have accepted the outcome of the election. And we come out lawfully to protest and express our grudges. What we are here doing today is to tell the nation, Inec, and the world that the Nigerian people are not comfortable with the result that was announced. What is in court is an argument on the basis of law, and the court will determine what they have to determine, but the Constitution recognizes the right of citizens to express themselves in the areas that they are not comfortable. We are here to tell the world that evidence has shown, and it has been reported by all the media all over the world, that this election was marred with irregularities. All the election observers have issued a joint press statement that indicated that this election was marred with irregularity, and they called for the correction of this result. The Electoral Act provides opportunity for the INEC chairman to correct this before the final announcement, and he failed to do that. So the Nigerian people are here to demonstrate their own feelings about the way we believe that INEC is compromised in this election. This is adjudged as the worst election in the history of Nigeria, because all previous elections, the riggings that were taking place were in pocket of places. For the first time, because of technology, this election was rigged across all levels in Nigeria in one swoop.
One would have expected, with your information and of course the evidence that you say you have, the tribunal and of course the court to be the right place to actually send that out. But now you're here. Yes, you did talk about INEC and the fact that Section 65 of the Electoral Act talks about how final it is when the umpire declares a winner. Means maybe you are the lawyer here. Talk to us about what that means. You know, the fact that certificate of return has been given to one candidate, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress. So what do you think can happen, you know, between now and when you probably get judgment from the tribunal and eventually the court?
First of all, even on the evidence of the misconceived notion of the chairman, he is still within the 7 days as required by law to correct what he claimed. Pursuant to Section 65, he has the opportunity to do that. But most importantly, you know that we still have an election coming. If you don't express your grievances to the INEC and the Nigerian people, what has happened today is likely to happen because they assume that a society can never grow in understanding until violence is involved. We are not about violence, because when you go into the street and perpetrate violence, then you are not standing for justice. Justice is devoid of violence, but justice is being firm. Justice is standing on your right against all odds, even when you are under threat, until the right is done. Let me say, Nigeria is a symbol of democracy in Africa. The world is challenged by the democratic ideals in the world are being confronted. In America, there was a threat to their very democracy. In Nigeria, who is the symbol, our sub-region has been taken over by all kinds of elements. And we are saying that the world must come together and let's preserve this democracy and not allow that the rules of engagement be violated, all in the guise to present somebody that you already thought in your mind you wanted to produce. This is bad. In fact, even INEC admitted. The INEC admitted that the election was marred with irregularity. So why didn't you correct it within the 7-day period that the law provides for you to do that?
Okay, so within the ambit of the law, you have admitted, you have instituted that litigation. Yes, INEC on Saturday, its chairman had admitted, it talked about the lapses in the part of logistics, technology, and of course, IREF. And they're promising to do better in the forthcoming governorship and, of course, state houses of assembly elections. So one would wonder, why wouldn't you just let that process just go out, since, of course, a winner has already been declared for the presidential?
My understanding is that if you fail a class, you repeat it. You don't fail a class and then tell the school authority that you want to be promoted and you will correct yourself when you get promoted. This is much more than a classroom. This is the destiny of the Nigerian people. The presidential candidates you see going to court are not going for themselves. They represent millions of Nigerians who have voted and are yearning for their vote to count. The reason we went to court, I'll give you a case scenario. When the Naira design was introduced, APC didn't even have to wait for the right thing to be done. They were all over the country, burning places and threatening bank managers and doing all kinds of things. Our own is to follow the due process of law, and we believe that justice, no matter how long it lasts, justice will be established at the end of the day.
INEC the benefit of a doubt, at least they have an opportunity to redeem themselves on Saturday.
INEC does not have any benefit of doubt. Whatever they have to do in the next coming election is up to them, right? What we are here are two things. One, the one they have already done, which decide the destiny of the country. The president is the symbol of the seal of that country. And when you get that wrong, even if you get everything about the governor's right, you will not be able to pilot. The Constitution says the power of the Republic is vested in the office of the president.
And Daniel, as we wrap up this conversation, oh wow, okay.
I have a feeling that you are also uncomfortable with what is happening in Nigeria.
I am a Nigerian, of course. We want the right things to be done, especially going with the ambit and the dictations of the law. And one says, okay, for now, the PDP has, registered its grievances to the INEC authority. And of course, Festus Okoye, the director of voter education, has received your letter. So what are your expectations, with what you have done today and of course in the days?
Our expectation is that the crime they committed in the presidential election, they won't repeat it in the governorship. The Electoral Act is clear. All results are to be uploaded. And when it is uploaded, it will be transmitted. They say where there is a conflict between electronically uploaded result and the manually transmitted result, the one electronic takes precedence. So we wonder how in the world you will keep announcing results that did not come from the one uploaded. So they should be able to correct the one coming, but going forward, they should. One of the indications that you've repented is to confess. Let them come out with every evidence that will implicate them for the justice to be done to the Nigerian people. The opportunity is on them.
Daniel Bwala, spokesperson, Atiku Okowa, Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And of course, it's been an interesting day, like I have said. And of course, this is not new, where we see candidates, presidential candidates, I must say, who are already in court, heading back, to the streets to protest alongside their supporters, as well as Nigerians in general. Let's not forget President Muhammadu Buhari, the current president of Nigeria. In 2011, he had protested, even at some point, even calling for the Nigerians, talking about a revolution at that time, because he feels like the right thing has to be done and the vote of the people must count. So the People's Democratic Party is saying, yes, we are in court, we are, in the process of litigation, but of course we need to explore every option available to us to claim what they say is the mandate. But how that will play out, I guess we'll wait and see, because of course the presidential candidate has told us exclusively here on Arise News that of course this protest, we should expect it to continue, at least for now. Back to you in Lagos.
Amaka Ode-Walker, thank you for your fantastic reporting, your commitment to the story as always. We appreciate you here at Newsday.